Hi guys. Okay, so I did not expect to be doing another podcast today. During the course of the night, somewhere around 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone starts ringing. I get these messages and I start looking at this podcast. And this podcast to me is super telling. This is the podcast that Carolyn Tokar, which is Amanda Dean's mom, also Shannon Dean's mom, did just a short time ago. Okay, it kind of set off some stuff here for me. I apologize for having to extend this podcast out just a little bit, but I've been on the phone with everybody this morning. I am sick. I have strep throat. I am going to do my best to give you all of this information and to get through this and help you understand it. I have spoken with the BCI. I have spoken with Patricia from the BCI, who I understand is higher than John, who I have also spoken with and dealt with quite a bit in the last week. So I want to be clear about who I'm advocating for here. I am advocating for Amanda Dean. That is it, okay? Not Amanda Dean's family, not, the sheriff's department, Amanda Dean. And yesterday I talked about family dynamics. I talked about that for a couple of reasons. One, there's some stuff there, man. I knew about it. I'd already done some digging. Okay. Specifically in the messages that I recovered with Shannon last Saturday, a week ago today, I recovered these messages. There was one specific message that initially was totally irrelevant. Today it became relevant because of when it happened. It was July 4th, 2017. Now, if you watched the first podcast, you know that July 5th, 2017 was an important day. That was that plan between Rin and Shannon and, this Geneva for Shannon to pick Amanda up on July 5th and take her to Geneva's house. That never happened. We know that never happened because she was in Kentucky that day. So my question that I posed in the last podcast was, why didn't she pick her up? Today it made sense. I didn't want to release this information because I don't want to hurt the family any further. If it wasn't relevant, I would say this isn't anybody's business. If I continue to withhold this information, knowing its importance and its relevance, that I would in fact be no better than I am saying Shannon was for withholding these messages. On July 4th, Fred used a horrific family secret to taunt Shannon, okay? This family had gone to great lengths to cover this up in the past. I mean, great lengths, okay? This is a horrific family secret. And, I wasn't sure if I should say anything about this, but today I got some information that led me to believe that this is true. So on 7/4 at 4:02 p.m., Shannon texts Fred and says, "What's going on with Amanda?" Fred gets upset. He says, "She is just fine. I'm taking care of her since I alone love the fuck out of her." Shannon's response, "Fuck you. She has a place tomorrow, July 5th, the day this plan is supposed to go through." Okay? "You're just a dumbass and you're nothing. You call that love? Your definition of love? It's ridiculous. You have no clue what love is." Okay, then she redacts some stuff. I'm not exactly sure what. Fred responds, "Fuck you. Now leave us alone. She is staying here. She is fine." I'm redacting some stuff that I'm not saying on this podcast. "She is fine. Listen, Shannon, not that one. Grow up. I would tell you to be a bigger person, but ha. Not that one either. She really does hate you, and she can't stand you, and wants to leave you alone. You to leave us alone. She wants all of you to stay away and never talk to her again." And then she says, "Yeah, prove it, stupid. Have her call me and say it." Fred calls that bluff, man. Fred calls that, he calls that bluff. He makes a statement. She told me to tell you to go fuck yourselves. And then there is some more to this statement that is unnecessary to read, but it is necessary to the case because it does reveal a family secret, okay? And I thought initially this family secret happened in, like when years and years ago. And then I find out that it didn't happen years and years ago. It happened pretty recently, before she went missing. Okay, so, he says I control everything around here. He says, some sister and fucked up family you have wanting to put Amanda in a shelter. She's better off with me over you any day. Okay, and then he says, funny thing, I just seen my phone. That was Amanda texting you back and forth. You two have some bond, fucking loser. Again, Shannon responds, lie whatever you want. You lie so much. The shelter is way better than until I can get to her. Okay, so she's still at this point planning on taking her to the shelter, right? All right, so, I go through all of these messages, and this is the shelter that this family said, never existed, that they never talked about it. It kind of stinks, but this plan is still to go get her. She didn't have to go to a shelter because she was going to go get her. She didn't because she was in Kentucky. I firmly believe that she did not go get her and that she in fact went to Kentucky because of this message. I think that this family was so adamant about keeping this secret private that they were angry. Like, they were already estranged, okay? They're already estranged. They're already barely talking. There's some things that go on there, and I understand that, but, these are facts. So she tells Fred that Amanda can make up her own mind, okay? She doesn't go get her. On 7/4, at 7:37, is when Amanda finally gets a message from when Shannon finally gets a message from Rin's phone, and it's from Amanda. That's on 7/4 at 7:37. Amanda says, hey sis, she just gave me phone. I guess I'm fine. I don't have to leave. I can stay here now. Okay, so I kind of wondered about that message, but this makes sense. Okay, now this is really, really important because the next day at 7:05, okay, 10:46 a.m., while she is very likely in Kentucky, she responds to that message from her sister and said, Fred said he was keeping you there and for me to fuck off. So he also said you don't want nothing to do with me. Okay. So, we know that she is in Kentucky on that day. We have a Facebook post. She was looking for her dad's grave. This family is really, really seriously about image. Like, they have tried to, cover up the fact that Amanda was in fact a drug user. I'm not judging her for it, but it's just a fact. They really want to put out this image that they are religious and, God-fearing and, code-abiding and have principles family. And the reality from what I can see is that they live a double life. Both Shannon and Carolyn live a double life. In everything I can see, that's my opinion on that. Okay? And I think that this was severe enough, this had long-reaching ramifications, this getting out, okay? I think it was severe enough that they were angry and they didn't go and get her, okay? So I looked into this family secret, right? It's got some legitimacy to the potential of it, okay? It's pretty horrific. They covered up smaller things. They covered up the drug use, the depression, the possible suicide. They definitely would want to cover this up, okay? So we get, that is what I know about that. Now what I would like to do is walk you through these tips and give you what I think happened in between these things. I have some more information. Okay, so the first tip that we get is, way back, and these are all old tips. Some of them are like, they're newer, but not super new. We get this tip, and it's, that July 11th, there's this work confession from Fred, after going to Midtown Manor. And I'll walk you through why these fit into my theory after I do this. Another tip, Fred woke up and Amanda was laying beside him, cold and dead. He apparently tells this, confession, and he's crying, and from what I understand, using. Okay, and then we get this blue barrel tip, and this tip comes from everybody. I hear this 3 different times, and this is just weird because it's kind of a far-fetched sounding tip, okay, but so is the safe house. Okay, so then we get this tip about this septic tank, very interesting, that I talked about that yesterday. Then we get this tip about 2 root cellars that are on the property. If you have never looked up a root cellar and you're going to finish watching this podcast, look up what that weird shit is, okay? And then we get this tip that Paul, this handicapped brother, signs to someone that Amanda's dead, okay? Can't verify the tip, but the tip comes in. Okay, so if you listen to podcast 1, you know that I have this theory about what happened on July 10th. I also have a theory about what happened to Amanda and who was involved in it. Today, I'm going to fill in some of the blanks with new information. On July 10th, now this could have been I don't have a timestamp on this, so it could have been any time between July 10th in the morning, early morning, afternoon of July 11th. I'll explain in here why. Okay, so this is my theory. My theory is on July 10th, because of Shannon's post, because of the witness statement, because of Corbin's safe house story, I believe that Amanda was beaten by Fred, okay? I believe that, now this is theory, don't anybody start freaking out. I believe that Rin, at this point, texts Shannon for help, okay? I believe that because I see this message that says, it has nothing to do with me, okay? This is the one that she's profusely tried to lie, that Rin has never texted her before, she doesn't know how she got her number. She said something had nothing to do with her. So, interesting. Now, fact. We get a text message from Rin Rear to Shannon Dean that says, wow, I've walked out to the cabin, no Amanda, this is at 1:52 p.m. on July 11th, okay? And then I have a fact. I have a text from Shannon Dean to Fred Rear that says, wow, so Fred killed her, and, she's going to get the law to scope it out. All right? I kind of stopped at that initially because normal people would think that this type of abuse probably, it's not normal, and it shouldn't be. But in Amanda's life, very, very vicious, severe, violent abuse, it was pretty habitual. So what I wanted to see here is why, she would think all of a sudden Fred killed her this time. Unless, of course, we go back to the theory that she got this message. So, in the meantime, Shannon takes forever to respond to Rin, which she usually does, okay? This is part of my theory. Amanda, badly beaten by Fred, goes, to Rin. Rin messages Shannon, which this happens before in other stuff. Rin goes to Shannon for help, okay? And either there is no response right away, or this is what she meant when she said it has nothing to do with me, okay? Amanda, given no other choice, having no other help coming, Rin can't leave. She's got responsibilities. I doubt Fred's going to take her and, get in trouble. So she goes to the shack to sleep, okay? And I believe she died there. And I have a tip. We go back to that tip that he woke up and she was dead. And, that tip fits this theory, okay? So then theory, Fred goes and tells Rin. What option does he have but to go in and tell his mom at that point, all right? Yesterday, I posed a question about, how she could have been kept for that long. And then I get this tip about these root cellars. These root cellars are they're super weird. They're doomsday preppers type looking things, but what they originally were canning and to preserve food. It kept it cold. They're underground. They have a door and it just goes underground. And okay, you know, now that tip, that starts to make sense. He could have held her for 2 weeks until the septic thing. Okay, so Fred puts her in this blue barrel. He puts it in the root cellar, and you know, he gets sent to Grandma and Grandpa's house at Millman Ave, and that's the alibi there. Okay, that's the alibi. He's been sent away before by Ren. Ren has sent him away before when they got in big fights, so there's no reason why I wouldn't assume that he was also sent away this time. Okay, and so then we go back to a fact. She did get that message while Amanda's gone. There's the fact that, oh, wow, you killed her, okay? And then this starts to get interesting, okay? Because she responds back to, oh, you know, you killed her. I'm sorry. She responds back with, oh, wow, Fred killed her. Okay, she threatens police action. What if, my theory is that Rin messaged to Shannon and said, he didn't kill her. She wants nothing to do with you. Fred left. She called that shelter number that you gave us. They picked her up. Okay, now this gets tricky because if that theory is correct, it would make it really hard to find Amanda. Yeah, if Amanda goes into a shelter because of a police report, it's pretty easy to, you know, get in touch with the law director, follow the procedures that Corbin mentioned, and find this person. But if this person of their own free will leaves a situation and goes into a safe house, it would be very, very difficult to track which safe house you need to apply to the, like the law director for. Excuse me, I'm sorry, sick. So what you would have to apply to the law director for, that would have to go to every county. So this story, if she concocted it, would make her as smart as everybody says she is, okay? Everybody's telling me she's cunning and she's manipulative. This story, if she concocted it, it worked. We're still sitting here 5 years later, right? Okay, so what if when Shannon goes down and does this missing persons report, we know for a fact that at 3:54 she did go to this missing persons, to make this missing persons report, okay? Then we go to this dispatch log. This is where this starts to get interesting because Shannon, when I pulled this dispatch log, she told me that this dispatch log was absolutely faked. There's no way, you know, that this stuff's true. She's pulling up this information. She's asking why they would say these things. Like, it's getting a little sketch, okay? So I pull up this dispatch log and I read over it and I notice some things, okay? I notice that Shannon does call in some of the things that she says she did. So, after she threatens police action to Rin, and after Rin gives this safe house story, okay, what if Fred goes to this Midtown Manor? Now, we have another tip that falls into this because that ping that I got from the original statement and from Norwalk PD lets me know that he was at Midtown Manor, he was at Amherst, and then he was in Lorraine. And I have this tipster you know, that called in then, he called into BCI, he talks to me now, tells me, listen, on that day, on July 11th, he actually came to my house. He came to my house and we drove to work together. And I was like, okay, when did he confess? So, you know, he starts crying and he confesses on the way. So what's Amherst, okay? Because he was pinged in Amherst. He said, Amherst is where we stopped to pick up my buddy. He had to work with us too. And then I say, okay, what about, you know, this final location? He said, well, you know, what we did was road construction. That's what all of these people did. He said, and he believes that the road was redone in front of that house that day. Now, interestingly, we go through this, when I'm going through this report, I see that they were actually dispatched. They dispatched Lorain County sheriffs to go assist in making contact with Fred at this address. I am pulling the police records to find out if that happened. To this date, I don't know that it in fact did, okay? So Shannon lies about this statement that she says doesn't exist, that it was falsified, you know, that she never wrote it. So we pulled this dispatch log from the day that she went missing, okay? And I think it's weird because it says here, okay, that they obtained her written statement. Then this officer went to Shannon's residence to follow up and have some questions, okay? She wasn't there. So she says that she never gave them the picture that they said they obtained, but I spoke with the former police officer, and it's true. She did, in fact, text that picture to him. And we know from this Huron County Sheriff's report that she did write a written statement. We also know because we asked records, and they said, we can't give it to you, but yeah, it exists. So, you know, this is starting to look interesting here. So, I don't think that any of these things were falsified. I really don't. I don't think that any of these things were falsified. To me, every information that I've been able to pull on all of these reports and all of these logs tell me, listen, you know, this information is pretty legit here. It's not something that I'm concerned with. So then we move on. Theory number 4 is my final theory. What if the police acted on the info in that text? What if Rin sent that message? She said about that safe house, you know, she went to the safe house. What if the sheriff was given that text? I believe that they were, and I will prove it, but I haven't yet. So I believe that they were given this report, and I believe that they were given this report and this text message as supplemental because it makes sense. The sheriff, initially when I was investigating this, it looked crazy, okay? You know, it sounded cockamamie. She's not at this safe house. There's no way, like, okay. But what he said is that she was badly beaten, that she didn't want to contact family, okay? And that she was in a safe house. So they definitely talked about the safe house. And the only people that talked about the safe house that nobody is claiming to have talked about is Shannon, Rin, Amanda, and Fred. They talked about this safe house, okay? So the only people that knew about this before Sheriff Corbin comes out and says it, and I have proof of it, are text messages from these people. Okay, and then did they talk to Rin? I had that question. Did they talk to her? And I found out they did. On that day, the Missing Persons Day, on 7/11 on 2017, Shannon Lyons and Ted Evans go out, and what does she say? She states she didn't really see Amanda, but her son Frederick told her that Amanda had been picked up Sunday morning by Shannon, her sister. Okay, but why would she lie like that? Because I have these messages where they have this entire plan, but this plan isn't for Sunday. They never mention Sunday at all in all these messages, never once, okay? They mention Wednesday, July 5th, and we know that she was never picked up that day. Okay, so why would Rin be motivated to lie? It's the only lie so far that I've caught her in. She would be motivated to lie if, you know, she's nervous and she's still trying to cover up for her son. That would make sense to me that she would lie like that. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, this works, all right? This totally works because the sheriff, he puts out this story. The family doesn't want to look for her because they have obviously so much to hide here. The Rin Rear and Fred Rear, they're not going to look for her because I think they did it and covered it up. The sheriffs aren't going to look for it. And listen, this is hard to admit, but this woman had repeatedly, you know, sought help. She, with Fred, had, you know, declined to press charges. And sometimes when you decline to press charges, you know, and the sheriffs keep coming out, it's kind of like a don't cry wolf situation, okay? And I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying I think that is entirely possible. I think it's entirely possible that she showed the missing text to these officers, and that's where it came from today. Okay, so 2020, in February 2020 is where I get this rant post that I think that July 10th happened from. It's also when Channel 3 came on and started asking the family some questions, and also Sheriff Corbin some questions. Okay, now this family picks up this investigation. Up until this point, from what I could find on Facebook, and I did some serious digging, okay, they didn't look. They stopped looking in August of 2017, and they didn't start looking again until Channel 3. The way it looks to me, that Facebook page was created in Channel 3. Up until that point, you know, there's no real push for this. They're not reaching out to anybody. If this is, you know, my daughter that's missing, my sister that's missing, I'm showing up everywhere. You're not going to be able to shut me up at all. I want my sister found. 5.5 years, you're out of your mind. No way I'm waiting 5.5 years and not saying anything. Okay, so that doesn't make sense to me. She had already said that she wasn't turning these over, okay? She had already had the opportunity to turn these over on July 11th when she reported her missing. She could have returned those over, and she didn't, okay? She didn't give them to the police. She didn't give them to them in its entirety. She gave them to them in parts and pieces, okay? These messages very much prove that at that exact day before, Amanda was very much in danger. And up until that point, she was trying to get out. She didn't just reach out to Amanda. She didn't just reach out, you know, and say, oh, come take me to this place. She reached out to all kinds of people. Okay, there were all kinds of people that reached out to me and showed me messages and things where on or around this time, June 29th to July 5th, she was trying to get out. So these messages prove that to the sheriff. That means she's in danger and they can look for her. She didn't turn them over then. She didn't turn them over in 2020. But in 2020, when this Channel 3 comes, she goes back into this app or she re-edits another screenshot because she has screenshots now that are different from the first set. She said she didn't access it since 2017, but that's not true. Okay, so if all of that is true and they get away with it, right? This last tip kind of comes into play. This last tip about this septic system that I talked about yesterday, you know, where a buddy had come and said that Fred needed help pulling up his floor. He verified that it was concrete. I very much believe it is based on photos that I've seen, photos that were sent by Amanda to Shannon. So I very much believe that the floor is concrete. I believe this story to be probably pretty true. But this guy says that, you know, he puts her in a septic. Now, I posed the question yesterday, how did he keep her in the meantime? But now we have this tip of these, you know, canning facilities underneath the ground that you could definitely, for a couple of weeks, probably store this body in without anybody noticing and potentially without causing all of those scientific things that I didn't talk about yesterday. Okay. So it works. Nobody looks for, you know, Channel 3 News has now pulled this up. Until this time, right now when I came out, the family's story was that they loved her, that they always helped her, that no safe house was mentioned, you know, that she never talked to Rin, and all of these things now have found to be inaccurate. And when she talks about the sheriff and, you know, BCI, she says things like corruption and cover-up and evil sheriffs and, you know, she doesn't want to turn over the messages because she doesn't trust them. But if she doesn't turn over these messages, in my opinion, it opens her up for some trouble here, okay? She wasn't screaming corruption and she wasn't screaming, you know, cover up and negligence from these sheriffs at any point until this news station came. So what I'm going to tell you here is what I know as fact. Well, actually, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to tell you how I believe Shannon has lied to me, okay? During the course of this 1 week investigation, 1 week, okay? And she stopped talking to me halfway through it. So I'm going to tell you how she lied. I believe it was a lie when she said the statement was a cover-up, that the sheriff forged it, that it never existed. I believe that is a lie. I believe it's a lie because the sheriff says it existed and it's too hard to cover up. She said the dispatch logs is a lie, that none of this information that she gives about her family and about her brother and, about where she is and what she thinks happened, all this information that she says is a lie, I believe that is true information. Dispatch logs are really difficult to falsify. She lied about the safe house. She prolifically lied about the safe house, okay? They definitely talked about the safe house multiple times. She gave the number twice. She mentions it between 5 and 7 times in these screen messages, okay? She lied about the first message from her. That's proven fact. We know that happened. We have messages going back for 2 weeks. She lied about it being 2 weeks since she talked to Amanda. And that dispatch log that she was really worried about proving to me wasn't true. She said it had been 2 weeks since she talked to Amanda. That is not true. She talked to Amanda less than a week before then on July 5th, okay? She lied about these messages to me. She said that they were complete. She said she wasn't hiding anything. She said that there weren't call logs, and that's true. She lied. That's just all there is to it. These two things can't both be, simultaneously true. These messages happened. These things happened. She lied. She also, went into some lies about this family secret. When I asked her about it, she was adamant that it wasn't important. She had tried to redact it from the copies that she sent me. Unfortunately, she sent me both copies, the redacted copy and the original copy. And then she really tried to guilt me into not using it. Now, I had no intention of using it because it seemed absolutely irrelevant until we asked about that July 5th. Rin Rear, I found that she lied one time specifically. She lied about that Sunday. She really removed herself from it by saying that Fred told her that it happened. But she knew very well that there was no plan to get her on that Sunday, that the plan had been to get her on the previous Wednesday, that plan fell through. She knows this because she sent the messages. And then I have maintained that so far in this, I haven't seen the sheriff lie, and I haven't seen BCI lie. And that's at this point, it's fairly true. It really is. It's fairly true. Okay, Rin was spoken to on July 11th. It's right here in this report. She absolutely was spoken to. This is where we get this lie. They did ping his phone. They pinged the phone number that Shannon gave them to Fred, okay? How, if she's not talking to them, if she doesn't know anything about this family, she never goes over there, how does she know this number, like right off the top of her head to give to it? She knows it because they message back and forth all the time. They just messaged back and forth a few days prior to this, and, he dragged her. There's no way she just forgets that she gets dragged this bad. Okay, there's no way that she just forgets that. They did ping his phone. Okay, so I pulled this stuff. They did ping his phone. They pinged it all over the place. And they also tried to follow up and have Lorraine reach out to him. So I talked to the BCI today, and I've been speaking back and forth with them all week, and it is moving slow. It's moving slow. It's slower than I like it to move. I get it. These are government employees. They work a certain number of hours a day. They, don't get paid enough for what they do. Corbin has answered my questions. The sheriff's office has answered my questions. I've asked a lot of questions, and I'm kind of tough, and I tend to rapid fire them, but they've answered them. And I believe so far the questions that I have asked have been answered honestly. I'm not saying that means they're completely honest. I'm saying the questions I've asked, they've answered honestly. Okay, I did get a meeting with the BCI. That meeting did happen the very next day. I have repeatedly called and been called and texted back and forth with John from BCI. Okay, today after getting a tip, Patricia from BCI, she calls me She asks me questions, she listens, she answers my questions, I explain my frustration, she answers. I think that there are some things that are in this podcast that are very telling. I think that if you go to this podcast that I have posted from this Find My Murderer or something like that, I posted it this morning. If you go to that and you go to 2 spots, okay, well, 1 spot all the way through, I want you to go to timestamp 1811. And I want you to listen to Carolyn Tokar tell the story of how her daughter went missing and how much she's looked for and what she thinks happened. It goes all the way to 842, okay? 1842. So start at 1811, go to 1842, listen to that, okay? Listen to that, and now that you have this information, I want to see what you think about what she says in here, okay? If you're feeling really sleuthy, listen to the whole podcast. It's all very interesting. And if you listen to it, I think that, her story jives with my theory here. And you would expect, or at least I would expect, if I was gravely wrong on this theory for, I'm opening myself up to this, I'm allowing people to tell me if I'm wrong. It's not changing. And I don't think it's changing because the evidence has it so tight that it can't change. It's the truth. And I explained that at length to Patricia from the BCI. I believe that they are working in this. However, I have been working on this. I've taken time off of work all week. I haven't worked since last Saturday. Okay, I've taken all of this time off of work. But in all fairness, this information, I've left my house 1 time, okay? I left my house 1 time to go to Norwalk PD and to get this ping report, to see if they're lying. And that's it. The rest of this story, I believe, has been solved, and I've done it in bed. So I don't know what that says to the type of investigative work that the Sheriff's Department did back in 2017, that they did in 2020, or that BCI is doing now, okay? I don't know necessarily what that means. I know what it means for me. I know that if I could do it sick, with 0 information, being brought up to speed just only a week ago, reaching out and talking to these people, and putting this all together based on the information they already had, okay, you should have been able to get to these messages. You knew this message, if I'm correct, was in the statement. And if that's the case, then you should have gone looking for more, because I did. I asked a lot of questions here, but I think that I asked the right ones. And I'm not trying to make the sheriffs look bad. I live in a place where sheriffs have to respond. I've been all of my life, for fairness and the truth. And, I understand that both sides of this had a reason to maybe want to not look for Amanda. And I think that's sad. I don't have any of those reasons, and I won't be stopped. I am going to continue to investigate this family secret. I think I have a lot of documents that I have to go over, but I have the gist of it, and listen, I said from the beginning that I didn't want to do this to this family, okay? Shannon, Carolyn, if you're watching this, I told you I didn't want to do this. I still don't, okay? I don't think it's necessary for everybody to know this information, okay? I really don't. I don't want to be the one that brings this information out because of the type of advocacy that I do, okay? But if you refuse to turn over the login information to the Sheriff's Department, and you refuse to come clean and be honest about your role in all of this, I will be forced to investigate this, and because I feel like all of the people watching this are the reason why the BCI has even paying attention to me, and the Sheriff's Department is paying attention to me. On Monday, I'm going to get back on the podcast, and I'm going to talk about what I find. I plead with you not to make me do that, okay? This case has been very hard for me. I'm not an emotional person, and I fight emotion even now, because this lady was so, abandoned. She was so thrown in this trash, like she didn't matter. And I get it, she made bad choices. She definitely had a drug history. She was probably pretty difficult to deal with. But at the end of the day, this woman is a person. She deserves somebody to look for her. And I think more than anything, she deserves her family to look for her. All right? And I know you have this information. This isn't an accusation. I know this information exists, and I know that you have it. And if you really want your daughter and your sister to come home as much as you are out here screaming like you do, actually do something about it. Go and talk to the police. You say you don't trust them. I'll walk with you to this BCI. I will demand that this is done correctly, just like I promised you that I would do in the beginning. Okay? This doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. We can bring Amanda home, and you can help, and you can be a part of that, or you can continue to do what I believe you have done and hinder that. But regardless of that, I will bring Amanda home, and I will tell this story. And if you did the things that I think that you did, if you theorized about any of this, or any of my theory is correct, I challenge you to buckle up, okay? Buckle up. Politics is what I really do. Politics is usually, pretty cutthroat, okay? Buckle up, because if you're involved in this and you refuse to be a part of helping bring your own daughter and your own sister home, and you're going to battle me every step of the way, I will take you down getting to save her. Do you understand that? I will absolutely put this information out there because I think that it's relevant to finding her, and I will find her without you. But we will bring Amanda home. It is a matter of time. She will see justice. I promise you it will not be long now. I'm done.